Hi everyone, Alexandra Jarrett, Jupiter Returns here with your astrology forecast, a little bit later than I would have liked. Try and get it out on Monday if possible. I've been a bit under the weather, so it's a little bit late. Apologies for that. I'd hoped to try and capture everyone before we had the big events of yesterday, which was essentially down to the conjunction, that's the coming together of Pluto here and Mercury. Of course, the delivery of some really crisis-provoking, quite dark information, news, that with those two energies coming together. I'm not sure that, I would have been able to add much value. So as things turn out, perhaps, it's all turned out for the best. But here we are. So I'm going to be looking at the 5th to the 11th of January. And we're really starting to move into a period of quite thick and fast astrology again, particularly as we get closer to the middle of January. If you've watched my yearly overview that I put out on New Year's Eve, that will have given you a bit of a heads up as to what we've got coming up on the horizon in January, because that's quite a peak moment. But let's go through this week and how we're building into that energy. Bit of a mixed bag. We've got lots of things happening. So I'm going to try and put timestamps on at the end. So what I'd recommend you do is try and just listen to it all the way through once if you can. It's sometimes easier if you're doing something, just having it playing in the background so that it doesn't feel like such hard work to take in so much information. And then what you can do is with the timestamps is then each day just give yourself a little reminder by just clicking in to that day's most important and relevant stuff. And then hopefully that'll be, helping you get the most out of what I do. The other quick announcement to make before I start is that I'm going to be running a Zoom session, one or several. We'll see what the uptake is like, but essentially just helping you to understand astrology, the basics of astrology, in a way that's going to facilitate you being able to get the most out of the forecasts that I do, and the forecast that any astrologer that you may be watching is presenting to you as well. Whether that's something on YouTube or something that you're reading, that kind of thing. So I really, really want this to empower you. It's such a passion of mine to educate as I go along. This isn't just about me saying, here are my interpretations of the astrology, and that's all there is to it. There's plenty of people doing that. My passion is to present you with how, I have come to my conclusions, but including showing my workings, as it were, trying to show you how and why I've come to the conclusions that I have, and opening that up then for you to put in your own individual perspective into that by explaining how it all works. So the idea behind the Zoom sessions is just to take that one step further. So please look out for those and join me if that's something of interest for you. But also, if you, at this point, if there's something that you would really like me to cover, something that would help you to understand and use the information that I'm putting out there that bit better for you, then please just drop me a comment or a message or get in touch some way, and I'll do everything I can to sort of incorporate that into the Zoom sessions. And I always try and price things so that everyone can access them. So anyway, without further ado, what's the big mood music in the background of the moment? Of course, is the nodes of the moon. So we have the North Node, the North Lunar Node, Rahu, as it's sometimes referred to, in the sign of Gemini right now. And we have the South Node, K2, in the sign of Sagittarius right now. So the nodes are always in opposition to each other. So that always presents us with a challenge. We know oppositions present us with challenge. And the challenge is to come to the middle ground. This is why I have the yin yang right in the center of my zodiac wheel here, is because it's just reminding us to bring the best of all of these oppositions and meet in the middle, because that's my kind of philosophy on life. So particularly with the nodes, what we're doing here is we're looking at where are we coming from, being our South Node, and where are we going to? So this destined, fated place forward is the North Node, just to give it kind of a very kind of broad brushstroke definition, essentially. Now, what that doesn't mean, it's quite often misinterpreted that South is leave that behind, dispense with all of that, and just focus on where we're going. There's a danger to that kind of idea, is that what we do is we throw the baby out with the bathwater, getting rid of everything that's gone, and we have so much hunger and appetite for where we're moving towards that what we're consuming isn't always good. So we have to find the balance, and how we do that is we use the past to inform us. We integrate what has been helpful about the past and use that to determine the way in which we move forward and what we choose to have more of in our life. Now, you may remember last year when the nodes moved into these signs out of Cancer and Capricorn. That's where we've been having the eclipses for around about 18 months before that. We've now got a year of eclipses in the signs of Gemini and Sagittarius. These are these big moments where the universe just steps in and just says, yeah, I'm making things happen there. These very fated moments in time feel very karmic. They feel very destined, okay? In the signs of Gemini and Sagittarius, this really refers to education, okay? This is the education axis, with Gemini being primarily what we read, the skills that we learn, you know, more youthful early years learning. And then with Sagittarius, it's more the higher education system, so college and university and beyond. And it's that beyond is a key word with Sagittarius, because it's when we actually go out into life and have the adventure of experiencing the world outside of, you know, the local area and our little neighborhood and our little school group and all of those things. So there's a lot of youthfulness with Gemini, and with it being ruled by Mercury, a lot of detail, a lot of attention to specifics. It's very practical. And so it's saying, well, show me the instruction manual, tell me what to do. You know, how do I add to and to? You know, tell me how that works. Whereas Sagittarius is more a case of, let me put that into practice. Let me go and live that experience. Let me put it to the test. Let me explore different ideas and philosophies and cultures to test what I've read, you know, what I've been taught. So what we have at the moment then is we have the nodes in a square challenge aspect to Neptune. Neptune very strongly placed in its own sign of Pisces, so having a very strong influence. And when we have a challenging aspect to Neptune, it can bring confusion. You know, it's the opposite of what Mercury wants. Mercury also ruling Virgo on the opposite side of the wheel. You know, with Virgo, Mercury energy, we want the detail, we want the specifics, we want to know exactly how everything is and what order it's going to fall in and all of this kind of thing. Pisces is just kind of like, oh, whatever, you know, I'll just go with whatever. You know, I'm fine. Like I don't need to worry about all of the intricacy. And Neptune kind of exemplifies that, exaggerates that essentially in a hard aspect, to the point where there's just absolutely no sense or order or control or understanding. It's just chaos. Everything's foggy, confusing, blurred, and we're just left bewildered and dizzy and drunk, essentially. You know, Neptune rules, you know, substances that alter our state of consciousness. They make us drunk. And so essentially we're all kind of a bit, whoa, okay, what the hell is going on? And of course, we're seeing this play out now, specifically within the education system. I think it's the education system that's really been at the forefront, and this will continue as this aspect builds even further. It's not quite exact yet. And, you know, the focus, the spotlight really is on the children, how much education they're missing. Are their exams going to happen or not? You know, how much are we valuing our teachers? How safe can we keep our teachers? You know, all of these conversations and how much we're asking of the education system in order to be able to cope with the lack of clarity and understanding around what's going on. Certainly that's something that's been very kind of, well, it's very topical. So we're all experiencing that. And it leads me to kind of condense, to distill down that what's going on and make it relevant essentially in the individual life. So we can essentially expect a lot more feeling of confusion and chaos and not really knowing which way is up. That's going to be with us for a little way yet, essentially. Ultimately, I think it's testing our faith. You know, it's really, with hard aspects to Neptune, we can really feel God forsaken. We can feel like, oh, you know, like, has God completely exited the room here? It's just, we've just been left in total disarray. And we can, you know, it really is testing our faith of, you know, how much can we hold on to the idea that someone somewhere has got a grip on things and then it will be okay, you know, ultimately. That's why the test is that we have to find within ourselves an understanding that ultimately there is a divine plan, even if we aren't party to all of that just at this point in time. There is something greater than ourselves. If you're a follower of astrology, then I would imagine that you believe in a source power, whatever that is to you. Something that's above and beyond, you know, the human incarnation of spirit. And so this is a point in our destiny, which is what, you know, all of this is about with the nodes, is that saying, you know, we have to find within ourselves, it's a crisis of our faith, it's a crisis of our belief, and it's testing us and saying, have we misapportioned our faith? Have we had faith in the right place? And do we now need to perhaps readjust that? Is this a process of readjustment, or is it a process of just essentially pushing us to reestablish a connection to something higher than ourselves and something to believe in, even if it is just this idea, this concept of a higher plan? So just some thoughts there. Another thought around this educational axis and the square to Neptune really is, and I can't imagine how challenging this must be for parents of children, but it's also an opportunity. Let's think the ruler of Gemini is Mercury, all right? And Mercury is very stimulating. Mercury is where we get our ideas from. It's all about thinking and speaking and communication and the movement of information from one place to another. And with Sagittarius, and particularly with the South Node being there, it's learning from our past experiences and our experience of being out there in life. So I'm assuming that everyone that's watching this is an adult. And I think it's a really great opportunity for us to look back on our own education, you know, up to, you know, the institutionalized education, let's say, and just assess for a second, you know, I'm 46 soon, and I can look back on my life and say, do you know, if I'd only been taught X, Y, and Z at school, my life would have been, you know, improved in X, Y, Z way. There are things that aren't on the curriculum that would have stood me in a lot of good stead, arguably better than some of the things that were on the curriculum. And that experience out there in the world, in life, that you have as a mature, older person, Sagittarius, Jupiter, you know, is something that the youth, Mercury, Gemini, the youth can really benefit from. And we're in this position where we can distribute that. Neptune is water. Neptune, you know, think of floating, you know, a little paper boat onto the sea and seeing where it goes, or message in a bottle. You know, that Neptune can carry and dissolve and redistribute that experience of the past to facilitate and enhance the future. And that's just one of the ways that I've come up of trying to find this middle ground between the South Node and the North Node in this kind of scenario. So that's just like something you might want to do. If I'd been taught X at school, you know, my life would have been that much more easy, or I would have avoided some problems. So how can I bring that wisdom to the youth of today while they're going to be sat at home for 7 weeks? And even if there aren't children involved in your life that you can, you know, contact or anything, then just think about for yourself, you know, what are the things that I've got to this age realizing I could really do with learning that new skill, because Gemini really is about those very practical skills. So the North Node is really encouraging us to get back to a more practical educational style. Whereas this Sagittarian stuff, it's kind of, it's the politics and the big ideas, you know, that are going to sort of launch into a global kind of world. Whereas Gemini is more about the local, more pared down kind of life of, you know, what helps me in my small worlds, you know, my little piece of the world. So is that, do you know what, I don't know how to change tires on a car, or I don't know how to cook, or, you know, just silly things like that. Skills, languages, particularly with Gemini. Is it time to learn a new language? Or, you know, learn, if that's something to do with computers or coding or how to use an Excel spreadsheet, something like that, something very mercurial, that's going to be time well spent. So just some ideas. Anyway, that's the backdrop. That's where all the chaos and confusion is. And each time we come into the eclipses, it's going to be the signs of Sagittarius and Gemini, and to a lesser extent, Pisces and Virgo as the other mutable signs that are going to have those biggest kind of doses of fate and karma and destiny. And then what happens is that the nodes will move on into Taurus and Scorpio, but that's way off in the future. Now, the beautiful, beautiful news today, really, really exciting news. So I'll clear that lot off. We have had a tough 24 hours with Mercury conjunct Pluto, and we've learned Mercury, we've heard the news, you know, that it's very dark. It's a very crisis feeling. Pluto rules death and rebirth, and, you know, it rules Scorpio. So it's, you know, I always think Halloween with Scorpio. So we've had a tough time, but today what we have is we've got Venus here. I haven't been talking much about Venus lately, but today she arrived at a part of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius in itself is super optimistic, hopeful sign. Venus here, you know, it's really, really nice energy, it's uplifting, but today she's fallen on the galactic center, this incredibly powerful zone of our sky, where it's widely believed has a kind of a short circuit connection to our higher consciousness, or the home of the collective consciousness of human beings, the womb place of consciousness, beyond, you know, the ego and the human manifestation stuff. And usually when people who are born that have planets or angles or points close to the galactic center, there can be a very visionary quality to these types of people, almost like they have a hotline to, you know, to space or to the future, or to God energy in some way. They can just reach higher levels of consciousness that much more easily. So when we have Venus here, I think this is a powerful call to us to remember our hearts at this time. And you may well, I know I have experienced love today that's come kind of from out of nowhere, and you may well be able to recognize where this has shown up today and overnight. It just, you know, Venus is love, it's care, it's kindness, it's friendship, it's blessings, it's sweetness, it's romance, it's kindness, it's beauty, it's music, it's anything that lifts the heart, that swells the heart. And yeah, it's kind of a call today to just remember that that's who we really are. You know, our consciousness, really is coming from our heart space, and it's reconnecting us to that. And that's going to be super, super important, because as we move throughout the week, you know, Venus is really, really going to be active in important ways. She's, and I'll come on to sort of discuss this more as we move through, but essentially she's going to be, at this point in time, from the galactic center, she is creating a trine aspect, which is the easiest flow of energy that there is, down to Mars. Now, Mars is only just finished his retrograde, the full retrograde journey. So he just came out of shadow yesterday, the post-retrograde shadow. So that work is now complete, all right? Mars doesn't want to be held back. He's been frustrated for a very long time. Spent 7 months in Aries. Mars isn't patient. Mars wants speed. He wants to be going places. So the fact that he's now direct, he's recovered all the ground that he had to go back over during the retrograde, and now he's kind of on a new mission. And so for Venus to be capturing him so beautifully at this time and from such an incredible place, I think that this is something that we really need to infuse into us. Whatever work you've been doing, be that consciously or even unconsciously, with Mars retrograde in Aries, we've been redefining what it is to be a warrior. We've been redefining what it is to be a hero for ourselves. We've been, you know, connecting with our masculine energy, our expressive energy, our assertion, prioritizing our own needs. And of course, all of this depends on what your starting point is. You know, if you've got plenty already, then perhaps you didn't need some more, and perhaps it needed toning down somewhat. If you didn't have much, then perhaps it needed to ramp up a gear. You know, there's no hard and fast, it's personal to you. But that Mars retrograde has really been giving us the opportunity just to look at this, and situations have been thrust at us where we may have felt attacked, where we may have felt victimized, where we may have actually even had a physical accident, where we've come a cropper through harsh, rash, impulsiveness. All of these kinds of things has been trying to teach us about our own connection with assertion and what we want and how we go about getting what we want. Because we have to approach that in a mature way. And sometimes Mars can be quite infant-like. You know, it's very blinkered in terms of me, what I want, my rights, and there's nothing kind of outside of that. It's very primitive energy. It's survival energy. It's not bothered about doing things nicely. If you're in a survival situation, it's kill or be killed, right? But we are a little further down the evolution, arguably, of the human spirit to, or the human species rather, to really be in those survival situations anymore, and yet our Mars is still there. So we have to find a way of channeling our Mars energy in a more helpful way. So when we have Venus softening and bringing this harmonizing influence that's coming from this place, it's like tapping Mars into this higher consciousness of heart, of love, then it's just brilliant, because what it's saying is, okay, you've done this work now be heart-centered in your actions, how you move forward, where you go from this point, having done all this work, you know, move forward from a place of love, from a place of kindness, from a place of worthiness, self-respect and respect for others, from a place of kindness, and all of those Venusian qualities. So that's building as we go through the week as well. And as those two signs move into Taurus and Capricorn respectively, they're in earth signs, and so that's bringing, at the moment the trine is in fire, so it's really like, yeah, cool, you know, let's make something happen. It's excited energy. When these planets move into the earth signs, though, it's becoming a grounded, earthy, tangible reality. Okay, so if we can capture the enthusiasm now as it's building and then carry it through into very practical and tangible ways as we move forward, and just remain centered in our heart space in everything that we do, that's the key message. And I hope you had examples in your life today of Venus showing up. I know I have, and if you're watching, much love. So, okay, let me just catch my breath. Right, we are back to Tuesday the 5th then, where we're at. I'll just take this off so that we can focus as we go through. Tuesday the 5th, then we have Mars now at the 29th degree of Aries. This is the very last degree. As I've mentioned before, the last degree is quite a potent degree. It's almost like Mars is saying, okay, yeah, I've got to make sure I've done everything I needed to do in Aries before I move on. But, you know, let's face it, Mars has had a long time in Aries. But yeah, it can feel like there's almost like a push, like a rush, you know, like an urgency about situations that have cropped up today, in terms of, okay, what now? Where are we going now? What happens next? That kind of forward momentum kind of panic. So it's a really, really great time just to reflect back on the Mars retrograde, where it's shown up in your chart, what planets have been involved. You know, if you're around my age, a lot of my friends group will have had Mars going over their Chiron, and some quite sharp and pointed experiences with, you know, a prod towards doing some healing work and work around self-worth and those kinds of things. But wherever it's showing up in your chart will be, you know, individual to you. Try and distill down, you know, what you've gone through with this Mars retrograde experience, and therefore, what are you now going to do as you go forwards, and how are you going to be informed from the heart space? Today, we've also had the moon moved into Libra, so we've had a moon Chiron opposition. So again, that's been a really kind of profound time. I mean, obviously the topic of conversation amongst the public moon has been health and healing, Chiron. So that's a really obvious way that we can show, you know, demonstrate where it's turning up. But that's just such a big picture right now. That could be any day. But essentially, you know, the moon here in Libra is trying to say, you know, let's get some balance about things. Libra is the scales, and it's a Venus-ruled moon. So again, we come back to this idea of coming back to the heart space, okay, and that informing our healing. Particularly for those of us with Chiron in Aries, where we've experienced the Mars retrograde over our Chiron. Might have been a really lovely day or some nice experiences that the moon has brought us perhaps there. And that can come through family. Moon also relates to mother energy, and just as a general sense of emotions and our history as well, or however we consider to be our family, essentially. So then we also have, yes, so with the, sorry, with the moon over there in Libra, she's also been trining Saturn and Jupiter over there at the beginning of Aquarius. They're both air signs, so making a nice harmonious connection there as well. So what the moon has been doing today for us through these experiences has been shining a light on where we're moving forward. You know, there was a lot of excitement about the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction this year, and I hope that goes beyond, you know, some bright things in the sky to take a picture of. I really, really hope that we've been able to engage with the astrology and the energetic influence of that event as well. We've started a really, really, really important new cycle, and that's still in the process of kind of coming into being. So today, the moon may have assisted in bringing some harmony into how we're moving forward with that, and a little bit more about that later on. So as we go into Wednesday the 6th, then, this is where Mars's journey is complete, and we start the next chapter of Mars. I'd like to say I was looking forward to this after Mars has had been held back so long in Aries. Mars ingresses into Taurus overnight, so it's going to be about 10 p.m. in the UK. So we're really going to feel this build up throughout Wednesday the 6th. Mars, Taurus is an earth sign, and it's quite a slow sign. Just think of that big bull, that big ox in the field. He's not doing anything quickly, right? He's not going anywhere. He just wants to stand there and chew. You know, even when he's moving, it's slow, it's steady, okay? It's reliable, it's sturdy, but it's not fast. And Mars has been held back so long, he'd really like some speed, and he's not going to get it. He's just not going to get it in Taurus, I'm afraid. In fact, this is why Mars is actually considered to be at detriment in the sign of Taurus. Taurus being opposite Scorpio. Scorpio is one of the signs that Mars rules. So when Mars is in, or when any of the planets are in a sign that opposes the sign that they rule, they don't give us their best qualities usually. So Mars isn't really feeling it in Taurus. So we can anticipate more of that feeling of frustration, a feeling of being held back, of having to go considerably more slowly than we'd like to go, and really building up a sense of frustration. Now that on its own would be challenging, particularly off the back of a year like 2020. But unfortunately, there are a few more challenges ahead with the Mars journey. And, you know, try not to look at this as bad news. It's great that you're hearing about this so that you can prepare a strategy, because Mars needs a mission, right? If you don't give Mars something to do, he's just going to make you feel angry and frustrated and irritable and aggressive. So knowing that he's likely to show up in that way now, before it starts to happen, empowers you to know, okay, I'm going to give that as part of me something to do. So physical exercise, really, really great thing to do. Pour yourself into that new workout regime, or, you know, building something, or, you know, doing a practical job, something that's going to get that physical energy moving. You know, with Taurus, it's kind of like it wants to physically do something. So see if you can plan a way of releasing any pent-up frustration in a way that's going to end up producing some good results. Taurus is Venus ruled, which again is a wonderful part of the Venus-Mars trine that's essentially going to be present all week. It gives Mars, as soon as Mars has shifted into Taurus, gives Mars a little bit more receptivity to Venus, because it's in her sign. He's in her sign. So you can kind of pick up on the Venusian vibes just that little bit easier. So Taurus is the sign of our values and our worth. So perhaps we need to do some work that's going to help lifting our sense of self-esteem and self-worth. Taurus is also concerned with the basic fundamental survival resources of life, the real basics. So food primarily, like don't try and separate a Taurus from their food, from their dinner. It's not going to go down well. Food is really important. Money is important. A sense of financial security, or knowing that whatever it is, currently it's money, whatever it is that stands between you and getting the resources you need, that thing there, that's going to be really, really valued. Okay. So currently the way we organize our species, that's money. So Taurus at this point in time rules finances, banking, currencies, money. These are areas that are going to have some challenges with Mars, as are the supply chains of distributing all of those resources that we need. And even such basics as I'm listening to the news earlier today about, with case numbers going up, oxygen. I mean, we just take it for granted, but obviously the COVID is showing up as people needing a lot more oxygen than normal. And this is a resource that has to be taken from one place to another. Mercury is really involved in this situation. Do we have enough oxygen? Can we get enough oxygen to the right places? Is there enough food? Another thing that came up in the news today was data. And we sent all these kids home. We sent all these kids, the education system sort of in disarray, and lots of kids are working at home, but do they have the broadband data to be able to facilitate learning at home? All these little practical, essential things are going to become a bit of a battleground potentially. So just get a strategy in place now for dealing with those things. So we've got Mars in detriment, having been frustrated for a long time already. The other thing that we need to consider is that Mars is in a couple of applying aspects. The aspects that we have are quite clearly Mars is gaining ground now on Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is like the higher octave of Mercury. So it's very destabilizing energy. It wants movement, it wants change, but it's like on steroids. It's like Mercury on steroids. So it's very unstable, unreliable energy. So it's not happy in Taurus, because Taurus is all about stability and reliability. So we've already got a clash of energies with Uranus being in Taurus. We've got a clash of energies with Mars being in Taurus, and then those two are coming together. So we've got speed, impulsivity, aggression meets volatility, shocking, and rebelliousness. Uranus is like, I don't care about your rules. I want to be free. I'm going to push back against what I'm told to do. And if Mars is coming from this place of, I want what I want, you bring those two together. And that's kind of quite literally explosive. Mars rules fire and injuries and accidents. So with Uranus alongside, it's sudden. It's very sudden and very explosive and very shocking. So these two don't come together just yet, but they're applying. All right, so it's a heads up. The other, I'll warn you about that nearer the time, but essentially the flash days are sort of between the 18th and the 22nd of January. That's when I really think things could get quite volatile. What we're dealing with first, though, is the square aspect, okay? These are fixed signs, right? We've got Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. They're all the fixed signs. So whenever there's planets in one of those, they're going to be creating a square or an opposition to the other fixed signs. So what we've got is we've got Mars, which is all about me and what I want and doing things quickly, building into a square with Saturn, which is all about doing things slowly and carefully and according to the rules and according to the authorities and in a very mature and responsible way. And so you can see there the absolute clash of, influences. Saturn is authority figure, so it's the government, it's the new rules, it's the lockdown. We knew when Saturn went into Aquarius was what triggered the first lockdown here in the UK, and it's a little different for different areas in the world. And then it went back out, lockdown eased. We had a time when Saturn was in Capricorn. Now Saturn's back in Aquarius, we're in lockdown again. So it's a restriction, a limitation, and new rules around moving around the community. That's what Aquarius is all about, the tribe, the community. So we've got this Mars saying, you know, I've been held back too long. You know, I matter, and what I want, I need to go out and get that now. You know, I've got a family to feed. He's like, coming into Taurus, he's like, yeah, I've got a family to feed. Like, don't give me your rules. I need to go to work. You know, I need to have some pleasure in my life. Venus ruled sign. You know, I need to see my friends because, you know, my the way I'm feeling is really low. You know, all of these different ideas, but it's kind of like what Mars wants and what Saturn is saying it can't have, essentially. Or where Saturn is saying, you know, you just need to calm down and play a longer game, essentially. So something's got to give because it's a square. And I have talked about this in the annual overview as well. So check that out if you can. But essentially, that's what we're applying to. Now, the square between Mars and Saturn is exact on the 13th. So that's into next week. So as the days sort of pass through from now until we get to that point, that will be building up. All right. So anticipate that as it's applying, as that aspect gets tighter and tighter and tighter, you will feel an increase in that. It's then also going to the conjunction with Uranus is exact on the 20th, but very much active from the 18th. And then, of course, with Jupiter being so close by to Saturn, there's a square taking place there as well. That comes a little bit later. That's on the 22nd. So I think the Jupiter influence here talks to our beliefs. Jupiter in a hard aspect can be very, particularly with Mars like this, it can just be very self-righteous. You know, Jupiter is my philosophy of what I believe, my ethics. But it can be like real confidence. And sometimes confidence, particularly in this kind of aspect, can go a little too far and it can go into arrogance, you know, self-righteousness. And I'm the only, self-importance, essentially. It needs humbling just a little. And I'm hoping that having Saturn alongside might do that, or it might just, unfortunately, act as more of a provocation, I think, to this. The other aspects to consider with Jupiter is that it rules politics and politicians. It rules royalty, you know, people higher up in the higher echelons of society. And so we could see some flare-ups of tensions there, particularly, I think, around the 18th to the 22nd. And Jupiter, you know, it rules law and the legal world as well. And, you know, I think that we may have to see that the law or the system of law is strengthened, Saturn, to kind of like these two working together, really just to try and maintain order, maintain a functioning society. You know, Aquarius is society. It's like, you know, we have to keep life going on to some degree as normal and safe and secure for as many people as possible. Whereas Mars and Uranus on the other side are just going to be like, well, to hell with that. You know, I'm not having any of that. I'm sick of being told what to do. You can't tell me what to do. I need to be free, that kind of thing. And again, depends on your starting point. All right. So I'm not saying either is right or wrong. I'm just saying this is where the clash is going to be and something needs to compromise. And we don't want to get caught up in this stuff. Like, no one needs this in their life right now. So, you know, have a strategy, have a plan. The other thing about Wednesday then is that it's going to be the last quarter moon square aspect as well. So that's going to be, we know that all of the quarter squares, the first and last quarter squares, they are crisis points, they are triggers, you know, and again, it's going to be that value stuff, that Venus ruled stuff, that's saying, you know, this is a point where we have to, you know, come from a place of what is most valuable to us. And that might clash with what someone else thinks is valuable. Social interaction might not be particularly valuable to someone that doesn't spend a lot of time with other people. They like their own company. They don't really, you know, enjoy that. But the loss of social interaction for some can be enough to drive them to depression and suicide. So we all have different value systems. And this is really going to be a push of saying, you know, where there can be balance and fairness amongst everybody's value systems within the current structure, Capricorn. And, you know, we're all going to have to make compromises. That's the thing. So yeah, that's going to be quite a triggering day on Wednesday. Then as we move into Thursday, the 7th of January, then we have, we've got Mars has then ingressed into Taurus, we know. So we've got Mars there. We've got the moon will then ingress into Scorpio. So what that gives us is probably our first real taste of Mars in Taurus, because the moon will be opposite. So what we get on Thursday is we get ourselves a T-square, all right, which is two squares joined by an opposition. So we've got the moon, so our feelings, our emotions, the public kind of sentiment. Whoops, something just fell. I think we're okay. Yeah, we're okay. Yeah, the public sentiment, the public feeling, the kind of the undercurrent of how we're all feeling. In Scorpio, it's not bright and happy and jolly, unfortunately. So it might feel a little bit doomy. In opposition to Mars, this could really start to trigger those Mars impulses of, you know, sod this, I can't stand this. Because it's all going to be connecting up these points quite profoundly off the back of going through that quarter square point as well. So really, really, really just try and stay grounded. That's a really, really key thing. Try and have an outlet for your emotions, powerful emotions with the moon in Scorpio, very, very potent emotions, intensified emotions. So we need to, you know, just strategize. You know yourself, you know how you get triggered, you know how you feel when your moon is involved. So, you know, come up with some ideas now of how I can, you know, ground myself, keep myself calm, and not get sucked into, you know, emotional reactivity, essentially, or doing things impulsively and rashly and, you know, snap judgments like that. Certainly don't burn bridges, not a good idea. So the quarter square moon, just out of interest, I forgot to mention, is at 16 degrees Libra. So if you've got planets around 16 degrees of the fixed signs, sorry, the cardinal signs, beg your pardon, tell I'm not quite with it. The cardinal signs, 16 degrees, you know, they're going to be triggered the most there. So that's moon moving on then into Scorpio on Thursday the 7th. Friday then is a really big day. Lots going on Friday. I'm just saying that all the time at the moment. I can't apologize though. It's, you know, I'm just a messenger. Don't shoot me. I'm just doing my best. So this is where Moon in Scorpio gives us some help, actually, because as the moon deepens her journey into Scorpio, she's then connecting really nicely with Neptune over there in Pisces, in fellow water sign Pisces, who we know has got a direct line to the fated and karmic points of the lunar nodes. So, you know, this is really helpful. Moon Neptune trine like this, and in fact it's even better than that, because what we have is we then have a sextile aspect from Neptune to the Sun in Capricorn, and that goes down again, that side down to the moon. So we've got a really, really easy flow of energy between Moon and Neptune, and then a pretty easy, supportive of, if we put some effort in, kind of aspect between Moon and Sun and Neptune and Sun. So this is good stuff. This is really, really good stuff. those feelings, that easy flow of water between the moon and Neptune essentially is going to increase compassion. And we really, really, really need that right now. There's going to be a lot of arguing and blaming and bickering going on for a little while yet. There's going to be a clash of values and beliefs and all of that stuff, ideologies. But you know, underneath it all, behind all of that, you know, the deeper the planets are into space, the deeper the level they're working on us. And trust me, Neptune is deep. It spends most of its time being the second furthest planet out into space. Pluto spends most of its time. But in actual fact, not a lot of people know this, but every once in a while, Neptune actually swaps places with Pluto, and the orbit of Neptune is actually deeper into space than even Pluto's is. You heard it here first. Well, maybe you didn't, but so Neptune goes deep. Okay, so this is kind of, it has more power ultimately than this superficial stuff on the top. This personality stuff, you know, that's just how you're showing up today. You know, that's just how you're showing up in this lifetime. Neptune, that goes way, way, way beyond. So that's way, it has way more power. So, you know, take heart in that. But yeah, lovely, easy flow of energy, really washing up to the surface, a need for compassion, a need for empathy and understanding how awful this must be for so many people. You know, the crisis, Scorpio, Pluto is the crisis, the effect that this is having on so many people, the amount of damage. And ultimately, I do believe that this crisis is a powerful turning point for humanity that can only result in good. I do not believe in dystopian ideas. I can't go to that space, because I do have faith in a higher source. I do have faith that the potential that is inherent in humanity is so miraculous. It's so incredible that it can't just, you know, whatever has brought us here, whatever is behind this all, isn't just going to shrug its shoulders and go, oh, well, you know, let Bill Gates take over the world or whatever that might be. I just can't, that's my personal belief. But ultimately, being a Piscean, perhaps, I do have faith that ultimately things will right themselves, and that out of every fire, every burned down ashes, the phoenix does rise, you know. And yes, we're in the flames right now and we can't feel it and we can't see it and everything feels dark and horrible. But I do have a huge amount of faith that, you know, we were long overdue something to put us right, you know. I don't think anyone would, you know, disagree that we couldn't really carry on in life the way we were going without making some fairly hefty adjustments to our way of life. But also, I think we can all agree, we can hold our hands up and say it's not easy as human beings to make those adjustments unless they're unless they're forced upon us. So compassion, understanding, empathy, really, really flooding up to the surface. Creativity as well. You know, Neptune's a massively creative sign. So this is a real great day for musicians and artists out there, and to really get into the feel and tap into, you know, that they're really creative flow side. And also good for anything that you do that helps you get into the flow state. Any meditative practices in whatever form they take. That can just be doing the ironing, you know. It doesn't have to be sitting chanting. Anything that gets you into that brainwave state. Understanding and having compassion for the depth of emotions that other people are feeling is going to be quite powerful. But also with the sun here in Capricorn, adding into this, it's really, if we can just engage with this a little bit through these sextile aspects, this is really saying, you know, this is a day where we can feel like we can do something to help. The sun in Capricorn it's a very practical sign, and it's it's okay on its own. Like people who are born with the sun sign of Capricorn, they're really more happy than not to just, you know, be on their own. Like, I don't need a team of people around me. I'll just, you know, I'm a self-starter, as they say. So sun in Capricorn here is like, okay, give me a mission. I want a mission. I want to make something happen. I want to achieve something. I want a goal to work towards, and it needs to be something practical. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. You know, happy for it to take a long, long time, because this is a Saturn ruled sign. But just give me something that I can work towards step by step, and I'm on it. So connecting that into where we have the moon and Neptune right now, this increase of compassion and awareness and consideration and empathy and creativity, these are all beautiful things that the world is crying out for right now. So what small steps could you take on that day just to facilitate an increase of those qualities in the world? Also on Friday, we have Mercury changing signs. Now, this is going to be quite big as well. Let's not forget, Mercury is an important character at this time, more so than ordinarily, because Mercury is the ruler of our North Node. Because Mercury rules Gemini, that means that Mercury rules the North Node at this time. So like his involvement's really quite important. So Mercury moving into the sign of Aquarius. I like Mercury in Aquarius. I have my Mercury in Aquarius, so that might be why I'm biased. But essentially, excuse me, Aquarius is really inventive. It's an intelligent sign, all right? Aquarius is the sign of the intellect, amongst other things. It's where genius happens. It's where brilliant ideas come from. It's where we can think outside of the box and come up with new cutting edge ways of doing things. That's how we utilize the rebellious nature of Uranus, which co-rules Aquarius. That's how to capture it, you know, is how can we do things differently? Not I need to be different for the sake of being different, but how can I do things differently that add something unique to the collective pool, Uranus? What can I do that someone else isn't already doing? How can I offer something a bit different? So Mercury here likes to think outside of the box, and it likes to come up with ideas and solutions that are very new, very exciting. So there's a lot that he can offer us in Aquarius. So that's kind of the good side. On the challenging side, well, yeah. What I talked about earlier with Saturn and Jupiter squaring Mars and Uranus, Mercury's essentially just joining in. And what is that doing is that basically giving a microphone to this clash. Essentially, it's just it's bringing the dynamic of words, communication, news, information. It's bringing that all into the picture, as well as disruption and change. You know, Mercury is called the trickster, and so in hard aspect, we do expect him to be a little bit of a character. You know, moving things around, messing around with things. This will be the last week before Mercury begins the retrograde phase that he's moving into. That doesn't mean he's moving into a retrograde. He will move into pre-retrograde shadow next week. So this week he's like, you know, he's got that going for him. But again, you know, we have to anticipate that communication, words, information, local travel, all the things that Mercury represents is essentially just going to be picking up on these further out planets, essentially in the squabbles that they're having. So just walk away from the arguments, you know, find an outlet for being heard and speaking what you need to speak. Have a trusted friend or a group or a network. This is Aquarius, where there is an understanding, Mercury, and Saturn in Aquarius, a mature person or network that you can go to that can hold space for whatever kind of emotional verbal diarrhea you might need to offload. You know, just being heard can be enough to just diffuse the emotions behind it. Just having someone hear you and validate what you're saying can be very, very powerful. So offer that up to someone else. Say, okay, don't go off on one on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. You know, if you're feeling like you want to offload, you can pick up the phone to me and I will get myself grounded and boundaried, and I'll hear it for you. You know, that can be a really brilliant way that we can support each other and start to create the kind of community that Saturn and Jupiter want us to build over the next 20 years in Aquarius. You know, not this, oh, it's your problem, I'm not getting involved, you know, off you pop. It's not my fight. I think, you know, we need to come together and support each other a lot more. And I think that's what the Aquarian age is going to be all about. You know, Capricorn's all about me and what I'm doing, where I'm going in life. And Aquarius is how we can come together as the tribe. And that's just one idea of how we can do that. Just to support each other. You know, Saturn's all about support. It's about structure. And don't forget, every time you are channeling the influence of these planets in a helpful, mature, pre-considered, intelligent, conscious way, you're preventing those energies from turning up in a way that you don't want, you know. So it really, really will pay dividends, you know, to channel them through in these ways. You be the boss. Don't let them boss you. So the first connection he's going to make is going to be Saturn. This is going to give quite a heavy tone to information, a serious tone. I've noticed the tone already starting to change from the authorities, and I'm sort of anticipating that we're going to see a continuation of that the messages, the information is going to be presented in a more strict and serious way. It's going to have a tone of more, no, really, we really do mean this now. It has to be taken seriously. So whereas before it might have been kind of like, you know, we'd really encourage you to do the right thing. Now it's kind of like, we expect you to do the right thing. You know, total different tone, way more fatherly. It's Saturn, it's the authority figures. So a serious overtone to communications and news and information with that. Also, we can bring limitations of, again, limiting Saturn detail, clarity, again, those kinds of things that we'd really like. We'd really like a firm, definitive plan. We'd like to know exactly when lockdown's going to end and what will happen when it does end, and, you know, all of these things. We're not going to know. We're just not going to know. And we have to kind of accept that. We have to be mature enough to say, okay, I'm not going to get what I want right now. I have to just sort of accept that and say, so what do I do with this? It's moving me in a general direction of where I want to be going in life. Remember, you know, what the nodes are doing. Where are the nodes showing up in your chart? Where's Gemini and Sagittarius in your chart? You know, where is it that you're getting that universal cosmic push, you know, to make things happen? You know, focus on those things. So we've got a couple of days of the trickster energy involving there, and then applying to the Mercury applying to Jupiter is going to be an interesting one after he's met up with Saturn, because the interesting dynamic about that is that Mercury rules the North Node, Gemini, and Jupiter rules the South Node, Sagittarius. So again, it's tuning us into that area of where things are going on, that I started right at the beginning. You know, how can I, you know, at this time, how can I, instead of, this could be, you know, mouthing off, it really could be, this is big mouth, Jupiter, Mercury, big mouth. You're going to come across it. You're going to come across communication from people just thinking they know it all, they have all the information, they have, you know, the truth, only know they know the truth, all this kind of thing. We're going to get a ton of that. You know, nothing new there really, but it's going to go through another peak, I would anticipate. So instead, just go, okay, nodes. These take me back to the nodes, the bigger picture. So what's going on with the nodes in your chart? You know, what planets and angles are they connecting? What houses are they in? How can you channel it in a more constructive way? So watch out for a bit of righteousness, a bit of soapboxing, some pretty out there ideas and beliefs. Again, this is Aquarius, this is spacey, this is like blue sky thinking. Sometimes that can come up with genius stuff, and sometimes it can just come up with crazy. You know, and there's a fine line, you know, there's a fine line between genius and madness. You know, it's accepted. So some of the information that's going to be, you know, spoken will straddle that line, and we have to try and discern which side of it falls for us, ultimately. So yeah, those are the energies to look out for there. Also on Friday is Venus's day. Venus rules the day of Friday. She's at the very last degree of Sagittarius now. So, you know, she's saying, okay, what did I do in Sagittarius? Is my work now finished? She's helped to bring out the best and help us find balance between these two points of the past and the future. So we may get another little push towards that. She's continuing to apply to that harmonious aspect to Mars as well. And she will ingress into the sign of Capricorn at 7 p.m. on Friday night. So she's going to take on a whole new flavor. You know, Venus in Capricorn takes on a far more practical and material kind of value system. Venus in Sagittarius values, you know, bigger, adventurous things, exciting things, spontaneity and fun and exploration. Venus in Capricorn just likes to work towards a goal of a material accomplishment, you know, something I'm working towards, and getting a longer term reward from something is really what Venus Capricorn is all about. So she's going to be looking for a bit of a mission as well, something that really isn't something immediate. So have a think about what task she might like, because, you know, if you haven't done it at the start of the week, then do it now, or give it some more thought now, because now we have Venus and Mars, you know, the divine feminine, the divine masculine, coming together so easily through this trine in earth signs where they can make something a manifest reality. The passion and excitement and ideas of the fire signs actually start to take hold, take root, and form something solid. So that's something to really tap into on Friday evening. Then as we move into Saturday the 9th, we have the moon then coming into Sagittarius. So that's going to immediately feel like a bit of a lift. It's always nice when moons have quite a heavy ride through Scorpio. We get a bit of a buoyant, optimistic uplift when she moves into Sagittarius. So if you do struggle with moon and Scorpio, you know, this is the good thing about moon transits, they're fast. You know, always know, you know, there's light at the end of the tunnel in the form of Sagittarius. So moon in Sag, she is waning quite powerfully. We can see there she's getting closer to the sun, and that means she's getting closer to the new moon. So we're really now in the phase of release, of letting go. And so with her being in the sign of Sagittarius, and therefore the South Node, should be activating this axis, the nodal axis, a little bit further on. The new moon that she's applying towards is going to take place at 23 degrees of Capricorn, all right, next week. So I'll tell you a bit more about it then. But, you know, that's, it's really kind of helping us to consider, you know, all the journey that we've been through since last March. We had Saturn-Pluto conjunction 22 degrees, so the same area of the chart that this new moon is taking place in. So essentially it's kind of, it's releasing, it's saying, okay, thank you, you've brought us this most profound crisis in the structure of our world, we get it. We get it now, and this is where we have the opportunity with that new moon to sow new intentions. But before the new moon, we're making space for something new to move into. So it's releasing time with this waning moon, all right? And with it being a waning moon in Sagittarius, this is letting go of outdated beliefs, outdated politics, outdated faith systems and ethics and morals and ideas, you know, that we've kind of clung onto that were relevant in the old world, but perhaps we can see now where going forward we're going to have a different set of principles, essentially, like personal philosophy as we move forward in life and move into our future. We're going to have a really nice connection from the moon, because she's in a fire sign. At the beginning of the fire sign, she will be creating a sextile aspect to air sign Aquarius. Give it breathing oxygen into the flames of Sagittarius. This is a wonderful combination. And you know, Saturn and Jupiter only came together on the 21st of December. So, you know, they're very, very much at the start of that new 20-year cycle. But we've had a little bit of time, you know, since then. And so my recommendation is, you know, have you identified now any themes around your ideas or philosophies or politics or beliefs that actually don't really have a place going forward in this new Saturn-Jupiter world of Aquarius, the age of Aquarius kind of thing that we're moving into. Anything that needs to be released around that now to facilitate, that's going to help us move into that more progressive and equal and fair society, it's time to let that stuff go now, all right? Any remnants of the old Capricornian hierarchy, the self-important stuff, it's time to just let that go, or at least have the intention to let it go. You know, that's a start point. It's really, really hard. It's so easy just to say, "Oh, just let that go." If you've had a belief system for a long time, you can't just go, "Oh, okay then." You know, sounds so glib, doesn't it? At least have the intention to, or the desire to. That's the first step, and then you know you build on that. Even just having that intention, even just expressing that intention to source is making, you know, is making that connection to Jupiter, to the higher realm, which will be heard. And the Venus-Mars trine perfects on this day as well. So beautiful stuff to connect to here. This is the moment where what's been building all week between Venus and Mars, that's the point where it's like, boom, okay, we're there now. So really keep your vibration high, really feel into your heart space, and just, you know, just have that intention. May the actions that I take going forward come from the heart and from the values that I, you know, I have worked with to create from my higher self. That's at 4 p.m, by the way, when that aspect goes exact. For those of you, I know some of my followers like to do little ceremonies and things just to mark that, and that's really nice energy there. And then on Sunday, okay, last one. Sunday we have the moon conjunct the south node. So this is when moon will really be activating up the nodal axis. Also, therefore, that means that the moon will be squaring Neptune as well. So that's going to pull into it also, washing up to the surface how I started the test of our faith and our belief and our trust. You know, trust and belief and truth are big ideas with Sagittarius, and faith in and spirituality in Pisces and Neptune. So this could be a real test, a test of our faith, a test of our beliefs. And it may be that we experience a hard lesson in where that's been misplaced. you know, where we've perhaps given someone too much credit where perhaps we shouldn't have done, where we've seen the best in someone where that hasn't been reflected back. So there is a bit of a potential for deceit and disillusionment around with this kind of aspect. And that is, again, that's just an opportunity for you to say, okay, lesson learned. I'm refining. You know, life is a process of refining ourselves and our understanding of, you know, we don't get born with an instruction manual. The instruction manual, we are writing our own instruction manual as we go through life, based on all of our experiences. So experiences, whether we class them as being good or bad, they're all massively, massively valuable, you know, so just think of it that way. Yeah, so it's having trust, having faith, even without the detail of clarity that we feel we might need. We'd love to be able to see into the future, Moon and Sag. We'd love to be able to have this absolute faith that everything's just going to be hunky-dory and wonderful. Particularly with Neptune there, it's just going to be the land of milk and honey. You know, that would be wonderful. It's not real. That's not the reality. We have to kind of get a bit grounded with it and try and channel those energies in different ways. And we can do that through compassion with Moon and Neptune. This is really reaching out to other people, and just kind of paying kindness forward a bit and just really going out there into the world in whatever way we can do safely and within the rules, obviously, just to express and give to others, to distribute to others some hope, you know, just some kindness and hope to people who may be coming close to losing it. The moon's ruler at this time, with the moon being in Sag, that makes the moon's ruler Jupiter. And what's really wonderful on this day then is that Jupiter is forming an exact sextile to Chiron, 5 degrees equally. So 5 degrees of Aquarius, 5 degrees of Aries. So again, we've got the air breathing oxygen into the fire of Chiron's flames here. So it's really, really helping facilitate learning from healing experiences. And you can't have healing experiences without, you know, hurts. You know, we don't heal from nothing. So in order to experience healing and everything that brings us, be it a sense of relief, be it a sense of growth, be it wisdom that we can give to other people, which is also a Chiron thing, you know, that all comes from having had something removed or something be difficult for us. So Jupiter here is really, really going to tap us into, you know, these are both centaurs. Sagittarius is a centaur, so man on the top, horse on the bottom, as is Chiron. You know, so there's a lot of receptivity between Chiron and Jupiter, and Chiron and Sagittarius. It's going to make them speak to each other really clearly. So the question I'll leave you with on that one then is, what have we learned in the past? Okay, South Node, what have we learned in the past about trust and faith, and how has that informed our healing journey forward? And just try and see if you can pull out, because this is the thing with Jupiter. Jupiter presents us with opportunities, but sometimes, you know, those opportunities don't just, you know, fall in our lap and do everything for us. You know, we have to, especially with the sextile aspect, we have to just look for it a little bit. We have to try and align with that energy. And that means, you know, taking stock, being grateful. One way to call in Jupiter into your life is gratitude, recognizing and creating, you know, the cognitive kind of connection between things that show up in your life and Jupiter energy, which is abundance and opportunity and growth, wisdom, adventure, luck, hope, optimism, philosophy, the higher realms, all of these wonderful things. You know, we need to acknowledge where they show up in our life. So one of the things that I've done for many, many years, I don't say a bedtime prayer, but it's my version of a bedtime prayer. And when I get into bed at night, I just rerun the day through from the start and say thank you for every little thing, starting from the beginning of the day, going right to the end, every little thing that I'm grateful for, so that I'm falling asleep with a full heart of everything that's, and I'm so lucky, I've had so much. Just today, I've had so much to be grateful for. And the more you recognize it and acknowledge it and connect with it, the more it will show up. And we really, really need some Jupiter in our lives right now. So yeah, taking stock of, you know, that I'll read it one last time. What have we learned in the past about our trust and faith, and how has that informed our healing journey? So sorry, that's all I've got for you. Thank you so much if you've listened. I know it's a lot, but it's what it is. And I have made a commitment to try and help interpret it and translate it and bring it to you guys. So thanks for watching. Give me a like, a love, a share, help spread the wisdom and empowerment that astrology has to offer. And don't forget, if you'd like to join in those Zoom sessions to make the most out of this work, drop me a line or a message or a comment and just let me know what you would like me to cover. But until next time, lots of love. Please stay safe. Please be grounded, and love you lots. Bye.